it was about 2.5 years before that. CJ was fine. Then he had some stomach pain. CJ had a sudden cardiac arrest. And I talked to him the day before. He said, "Things are looking good, man. I'm gaining weight.
Yeah.
Things are looking up. Great." And the next day it passed. We did our thing. He came back in the dressing room and he said, "I think you guys are ready for a record deal." And we signed with Epic, maybe a month later. Pearl Jam was on our label, and we could tell they were the big priority. He didn't want us to cancel a show, especially once we got Nate. Once we got Nate, he's like, "Okay, that guy can sound like Firehouse."
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
that's your guy.
And how much longer does Bill Leverty want to rock?
Till I can't do it anymore, man.
The hair metal guru from Warren to Crew. The hair metal guru never forgot it too.
Today, I am pumped to welcome Bill Leverty to the show. Bill is the guitarist and founding member of Firehouse, who have sold over 7 million records, had a top 5 single that became the wedding song of the 20th century. They won the 1992 American Music Award for Favorite New Hard Rock Artist, and they just released a kick-ass new single called Mighty Fine Lady. With that, Bill Leverty, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Anthony. Great to be here.
Yeah, hey, before we get into it, I just wanted to acknowledge this. I watch a bunch of interviews and have studied your past, and so I'm a vet. I'm an Iraq vet and a Kosovo vet, and I know that you support the Wounded Warrior Project.
Oh, yeah.
And I met you about 2 months after I got home from Iraq in the summer of '04, and I just you were like so appreciative and just kind and welcoming. So I wanted to acknowledge that before we got going.
Well, I should be acknowledging you again for your service, and thank you so much for all you've done to help our country and the world.
No,
Putting your life at risk. We appreciate it, brother.
thank you. Thank you. So I want to get into the new single and talk about what's going on with the band, but I'd like to kind of get like, when did you realize that music was your thing? I know you were like a big diver in high school, but suddenly guitar, like when did you go, okay, music is what I want to do?
Well, I was actually a diver up until I was about 11 or 12.
Okay, sure.
And then I was really into ice hockey. So I thought, well, ice hockey is going to be my thing. I want to become a pro hockey player.
Sure.
Out of Virginia, that's hard. We have had one guy that's made it um, recently, but
Okay.
I learned pretty quickly after playing some of the guys from Canada and from New York and Minnesota and Chicago and Denver, that wow, these guys are so heads and shoulders above this. And that's right about the time when this place was offering group guitar lessons.
Right.
And it was cool. I was like, I love guitar. I always listened to guitar music. And I had tried, row, row, row your boat before, but I was going to give it another try. And this teacher taught us chords first instead of notes first. And so, after the first lesson of learning a D, a C, and a G, I could play Sweet Home Alabama. And then
Right.
after about the third lesson, he taught us bar chords, and then I could play Smoke on the Water. And then I was in a band right after that. So it
Right.
happened quickly, and that was my passion. I knew it was. It pulled me away from my schoolwork, but not so much that I flunked out or got bad grades or anything.
Yeah,
It was a really healthy distraction for me.
sure.
And, I was in bands from middle school all the way through, 1 year of college. And then I came home from college and I told my dad, I said, I want to play music full time. And he was like, "Oh, you got no chance of having a career in that." And I was like, "Well, let me just try it for a while. If I don't do it well, I can still go back to college." My grades were good enough.
Yep.
And I never went back to college.
Right.
Uh,
Okay.
Here we
Okay.
are.
So what were so I know like the precursor to Firehouse, you were in a band named White Heat. Was that the first band that you had that started to develop? Because that is initially Firehouse. Like, how did that band come together? You meeting the guys and and forming what would become Firehouse?
Well, I was in some other bands before that were, I don't know, we all had dreams of doing it, but we weren't that serious, you know. But I got an ad out of a message board at a music store to join this band called Star Rider. And Star Rider, I went in and I loved their set list, all their songs. They were playing UFO and they were playing Blue Oyster Cult and April Wine and all these great songs with really interesting guitar parts. So I was really excited about it. And then they fired me. And um, they fired me because they had the opportunity to get a really good singer who came with another guitar player, kind of as a package deal with a PA system and all that stuff. So I was, well, okay. Went back to my day job, which was I was still working a day job the whole time. I had really short hair, and working in a grocery store where you couldn't have your hair touch your collar.
Right.
And then about, I'm going to guess 6 months later or so, they called me back and they said, "Hey, you want to join back again? We had some problems with that guitar player that came with this package deal thing." And I said, "Oh, I'd love to," because their new singer was great. And then there were a couple of other personnel changes. And at that point, we changed the name to White Heat.
Okay.
And nobody in the band that, is in there now was in there. It was then another year or so that we needed a drummer because the drummer had to quit. And we auditioned Michael Foster, and I've been playing with him now for 42 years.
Yeah.
So Firehouse kind of evolved from Star Rider, which fired me, brought me back in, and then we changed the name to White Heat. Then we got Michael, and then things got more serious, and we made some more personnel changes, and then we finally got a record deal as White Heat, and then we found out that the trademark was already taken, so we had to change our name. And
Sure.
Michael came up with the name Firehouse, and we all thought, "Wow, that's a great name." It wasn't named after a Kiss song, even
Right.
though we knew about that song, love that
Yep.
song. But Michael was going to go into the Fire Academy
Sure.
right at the time where we said, "Hey, you want to audition for our band?" And he said, "Yeah." And he came in and he just knocked us all out. And so he came up with that name Firehouse because of his Fire Academy.
Sure. Sure. Did you start as a cover band, and when did you start writing songs?
I wrote my first song in ninth grade, and this was before Star Rider
Yeah.
and Firehouse. But
Sure.
in Star Rider, we did do a couple of original songs.
Sure.
Then in White Heat, when we started again, we did a couple, but it was mostly cover tunes. That's what the audience wanted to hear. That's how we
Yeah.
got gigs. But we throw in an original, you know, once or twice in a set, and people would think it was, oh, that sounds like fits kind of right in.
Yeah. Sure.
Snuck
When
'em
was
in.
when was the first time you wrote a song and you thought, "Shit, I might have something here"?
I'm still hoping that'll happen.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
I've written some where I thought, hey, I like that, but you just never know whether other people are going to like it or not.
Yeah.
And then you also second guess yourself a lot. As an
Sure.
artist, you go, could I've done that better? I could have always done something better.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the thing we live with as creative people is, you want to do it, make your best work. And at some point you have to just let it go and
Yeah.
then move on to the next thing.
Yep. Was there a point in White Heat where, I mean, I would imagine you're slugging it out in the clubs for a while. When did you start to go like like something's happening here, like this is really going to become something? Do you remember that?
There were just little steps along the way that got us there. When we started to get a good reaction from the audience, that was one of the first ones. When we play original songs, when we have original songs get requested by the audience, that was
Yeah.
another encouragement. And then once we had a pile of songs together, we went in the studio and we recorded some. And we thought the songs were really cool. At that time, our singer at the time left, and that's right about the time when I got in touch with CJ,
Yeah.
who had left the band that he was in, and I sent him the demo, and I said, "Would you be interested in singing on this?" And he said he'd love to. And so we went down to a place called Zebulon, North Carolina, and we recorded, I'm guessing, about 8 songs. And when he sang those and put his magic on them,
Yep.
that's probably when we all felt, okay, we got a shot here.
Right.
Still a long way to go,
Sure.
but that was probably the big one.
Sure. When that's not obviously the demo that ends up getting produced by Dana Strum. How did you guys end up getting hooked up with Dana Strum, who has Mark Slaughter and guys like Stevie Rochelle sing on this demo? How did that happen?
Yeah, well, we had that demo. Well, maybe it was a demo later that we had
Yep.
recorded, and I recorded some more demos in my little 4 track in my bedroom at our band house. And Vinnie Vincent Invasion was playing at a club in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I got a tape to Dana, and I'll be darned, he listened to it, called me back the next day, and he said he really liked it, and he'd like
Yeah.
to work with us. And at that point, we had management, and we had management from a guy who worked for Bon Jovi,
Right.
a guy named Danny, and he was a great guy. And um, uh, we had met John, gotten John a tape. John was interested in everything, and through the meeting of John and through Danny, Danny knew a guy who had an independent label. So we were on the verge of getting this indie deal at the same time we met Dana, and Dana said, "I want to produce it." This indie deal, this indie company up in New York called Three Cherries Records said, "Hey, we'd like to put out your record. There's your producer. Fly out to L.A. and do it." And we thought, "Wow, here we go. We got to start here."
Right.
And so we went out there and slept on the floor at Dana's place with Mark and all of us and a crew guy, and we recorded that demo out in L.A. and that led to the next thing, which I'll that answers your question. So what's your next one?
Yeah. No. No. I mean, feel free to go off. No, I
Okay.
was.
All right. Well, so that led to
Yes.
the next thing. We flew back to Charlotte, North Carolina with this cassette tape of songs that Dana produced, and he did a magnificent job of producing, I tell you.
Yep.
And the deal was with this label was like, if we're going to try to shop it, if you get a major label deal, you just buy us out for a reasonable price. And if you don't, we're going to get your career started here with our indie label.
Yeah.
And I gave the tape to a program director that I met just in a club one night. I always had a bunch of cassettes on me. He's like, "Oh, yeah, I'm the program director of, WROQ and, 95 Rock, 98 Rock. I can't remember, but
Sure.
it was a big station. And I gave him the tape of all the songs on there. It was 8 songs. And he called me back the next day and he said, "I could play any one of these songs off this tape on my station." And I said, "Well, you decide what you're going to play. I thank you. And we won't release it. We'll make it so the only place that they can hear that song is on your station."
Sure.
And so that was the only place anybody in Charlotte, North Carolina could hear it. And they called that station, rang it off the hook, and it was the number one song on that station all summer long.
What song was it?
"Home is Where the Heart Is."
Okay. Yep. Okay.
Yeah, song off our first record.
Yep.
And because of that interest, and we didn't know it, but every major label in the industry had an office in Charlotte, North Carolina. Who would have thought that? I thought they were all in New York and LA, maybe a couple in Nashville, but
Right.
they weren't A&R people, but they were sales people or they were marketing people. And they called their bosses up in New York and said, "Hey, there's this band that's getting all this airplay and they're selling 1,000 tickets every time they play in a club. You guys got to come and see them." So we got to play for every major label.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, they all passed on us. They were, "Oh, I don't see a star," or, "Hey, I hear a lot of good songs. I don't hear any great songs. Do you have any great songs or just those kinds of, I want to hear some more, like, well,
Right.
send us some money and we'll record some more. We need a deal.
Right.
So we were pretty discouraged because we did have a deal with Polygram and
Yep.
then the guy got fired.
Okay.
So we were discouraged there. And but then out of the blue, same club, Danger Danger's playing there. Walked into a guy there who's about 6'6", and oh, you're White Heat, aren't you? And I gave him a tape. And the 3 days later, the VP of Epic Records called and he says, "Hey, I really like your tape. It can capture my interest. When would you like to, have me come down and see you play?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, when can you come down?" And he said, "How about December 9th?" And I knew that because that's Michael Foster's birthday.
Sure.
And so he came in, and there was an ice storm in Charlotte, North Carolina. I can't believe his plane landed. None of our people, our fans and friends, could make it to the gig because there was an ice storm and traffic was, you'd wreck getting to this thing. But
Yeah.
his cab made it, and there were 5 people in the audience. He was one of them. He was like, "Hey, just go ahead and play, do your thing." We did our thing. He came back in the dressing room and he said, "I think you guys are ready for a record deal." And we signed with Epic, maybe a month later.
What is this 88, 89? When
That
did
would have been 88.
okay, 88.
And so we went up to New Jersey in 89. That was December
Yep.
of 88. So in
Okay.
89, we went up to New Jersey and got a producer named David Prater that they recommended. Great
Yep.
guy, great producer. And we started recording demos,
Yep.
which is like our fourth, fifth time recording some of these songs
Right.
in his basement. And then I think we were kind of being auditioned to find out whether he could bring in the record under budget or not. And
Sure.
we passed that audition. So then we went into the real studio in Suffern, New York, and recorded our first album.
How long did that take? And like you hear some people are there like, oh, the producer was all, it was a nightmare. Some people love it. Like, what was that first time for you? Was it good or was it bad?
It was great. I was so nervous.
Sure.
But Michael knocked out his stuff in a day, all his drum tracks in a day. Perry knocked out all his drum tracks in a day, and then it was on me, and I had to layer these guitar tracks
Yeah.
quite a bit. And David Prater would let me know by rewinding that tape and saying, "You hear that?" when something wasn't right. And so it took me longer than I expected, and
Sure.
but I got it done. And CJ came in and he'd sing it, a song a night and nail it. And
Yeah.
so it
Um,
was a great experience. I was really nervous. So
sure. Who wouldn't be? Shit. I'm nervous sitting here talking to you. No, I'm
well,
just kidding,
I'll
but
say the other guys in the band, they just acted like it was something that you know, that they were going to go in and do it. And to me, I'm like, "Oh no, picking, my hands are sweating." I remember that, but I mean, we got through it, and
sure.
it was a good experience.
I don't know if you've ever watched the show Friends. Have you ever been told that you sound just like Matthew Perry?
Do I? I haven't been
Man,
told.
yeah. Anyway, you do. You have
Okay.
that voice. Okay.
Thank you.
So the album comes out August 21st, 1990, and holy shit! I mean, we're getting to the end of the scene, and you and I before I hit record, we kind of, we mentioned the term hair metal, but the scene of that straight ahead rock, and but you guys blow that thing up, 2 million copies. Goes to number 21 on Billboard, Love of a Lifetime, top five single. Like, what's that experience? I mean, try to give the average fan. You go from hear this band in North Carolina, and suddenly you're stars. You're like, what is that like for you?
I think we were kind of oblivious to all of that because we were on a bus with one another. We'd go into a radio station in the morning, break out the acoustic, sing "Don't Treat Me Bad," tell people to come out to the show. We
Yeah,
were out with Warrant on that summer, and that was shocking because these huge venues were sold out
yeah,
everywhere we went. Warrant and Trickster, and Warren had Heaven, and they had Cherry Pie, and So they made it really great for us because they treated us like brothers, you know, right away. They were like, Joey Allen, you know, anything you need, man, you let me know. My tech will help you. We're all here to give the fans a great show. I was like,
Yep.
wow, that is so cool. Um, but every, you know, after the show, we'd get in the bus and you'd sleep and you'd wake up and you were in the next town to do the same thing, to go into the radio station, play a song, go to lunch with a program director, go to maybe get a sound check, go to get a shower, go to the gig, repeat the cycle. And, you know, we were excited when when our manager would tell us, hey, you know, your song's broken into the top 40 or whatever. We're like, wow. Um, we were, also saying, wow, it's about time, because we've been trying to do it since, you know, 19, you know, 81,
Yeah.
when we all kind of committed to doing this.
Yeah.
So it had been 8, 9 years and we're going, wow, you know, we're so grateful. And I think we needed that long time to really develop as artists and to appreciate what happened, because otherwise, you know, I think if you get that success too early, it'll go to your head. And I don't know about necessarily for us, but for some people I've seen that. But we we just loved getting out there every night, and we really cared. We really want to make every night sound our very best. And we cared about our voices. We you know, we'd make sure we could sing the next night. And when you're doing 3 and 4 shows in a row, you got to take care of your voice. And we all sing. So none
Yeah.
of us sing like CJ did,
Sure.
but we all were there to back him up, and we had to be in tune and with control and all that.
Well, anybody who's ever watched the Blood, Sweat, and Beers, the pay-per-view, which is on YouTube, knows that that was a big party tour. And I've done numerous videos about Janie Lane. I got to hang out with them in the mid 90s a few times. Um, what was your perspective of Janie Lane, getting to know him and ultimately see his downfall? Like what was your view of him?
He was a great guy.
Yeah.
Fantastic songwriter and singer.
Yep.
And just every night just crushed it.
Yeah.
Um, and then you know, and at the end of the tour, he was always really nice, walking down the hall. Hey, you know, he's just awesome. Um, at the end of the tour, it was hugs and all that. See you again. And we did several shows with him after that.
Yep.
And you know, I don't really know the history of what happened there. I know
Sure.
he left to do his own thing for a little bit,
Yep.
and I played a solo on one song that he had done. And I saw him here and there, but as time went on and we did shows together, it was shows where we'd pop in and we'd be, um, you know, not necessarily on a bus. We'd have a van and we'd hop, you know, go from the hotel down to the venue, and then we'd have to leave. So we didn't get to really see him much, but, you know, great guy. I mean,
Yeah.
great. And it's just sad
Sure.
that ended the way it did, and that he,
Yep.
you know, had the problems that he faced.
Yep.
But you know, I got nothing but great things to say
Sure.
about him. You know, he's
Sure.
just that kind of great guy. You know,
Speaking of touring, you guys were always known for whenever possible, and every time I saw you guys, and I saw you guys a lot back in the day, going out to meet fans after the shows, like all the time. Like I just wanted to acknowledge that, and that you guys were one of the most accessible bands I've ever seen, and I've seen them all. Like how was that just a band philosophy that you guys sat down one day and said, "Okay, hey, this is something that we're gonna make sure that we do."
it was the second best part of the night for us. It was after the show, going out and meeting everybody. The
Yep.
best part of the night, of course, was playing the music.
Yep.
But then, you know, we dry off and we go out and we shake hands,
Yeah.
and it was great. You know, those were the good old days.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
we'd play these shows, and there were a lot of times where we couldn't do it, and we were kind
Yeah.
of bummed that we can't do it. You
Yeah.
know, and now the way it is, where we're doing all fly dates, we don't
Yeah.
get to go back on a bus and go to bed.
Yep.
We got to go back to the hotel and wake up at 2:33 in the morning
Yep.
to catch the next flight.
Yep.
So we can't really do it anymore, but
Yep.
those were good times.
Absolutely. So anyway, that was just you guys did that more than any band I ever saw. But okay, so the debut is a huge success. You're locked and loaded for album number 2. But in September of 1991, we all know little band named Nirvana, and I'm sure you get this question all the time, but what's your view, you seeing it happen as you're getting ready to record ultimately what becomes Hold Your Fire?
Well, I don't think I'd heard about Nirvana at that point. At that point, things were still going pretty normally in the industry. There was a little bit of a change, I guess, in some other bands that had come up. I can't remember the exact timeline, but we just were going in with the same team, the same producer, same engineer.
Yep.
We had been writing the whole time we were on the road, during that tour, and we had the songs. I do remember being at the record company, and the record, our publicist said Tommy Mottola wants to meet with you guys.
Yeah.
He's the biggest boss of the record of Sony, and he said, "Hey, you guys can't have the material for your next record ready soon enough."
Yeah.
And we said, "Well, we got it. We've been working. We're doing our homework." And he said, "Great." And we were in the studio like 2 weeks later,
Yeah.
and it was a great experience. Same team, and
Yep.
I layered guitars a little thicker, which was, fun. I wasn't quite as nervous.
Right.
And then we finished that record, and we didn't even get to hang out to watch them mix it, or put in our 2 cents worth on the mix, which it was a great mix. So
Yeah.
nothing I could have said that would have made
Yep.
it any better. But we left Suffern, New York, and flew out to North Dakota, where we started to tour with Tesla. And they had just put out that album that had Signs on it, and some other song, the 5-man acoustical.
5 Man Acoustic.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, huge album for them. And we were like, wow, we get to go out with, and I've always loved Tesla.
Yep.
And it was going to be a 6-week tour. And it did so well that the promoters asked the tour to come back 3, and some markets 4 times.
Yeah.
And so that was a 9-month tour that we were
Right.
out with them. So 6
Right.
weeks turned into 9 months, and we were just having a great time being out with them. It was wonderful.
And even though like the album came out in June of 92, I don't know if it's gone platinum since, but I know like in my research it's damn near platinum. It went to number 23. You had a top 10 hit with When I Look Into Your Eyes. Did you kind of feel like, you know what? Hey, we can coexist with this new thing that's going on in music. Like we're gonna be fine.
I was kind of always felt we could coexist. There's always room for
Yeah.
good music, and I felt like we had some good stuff out there that they could play. The record company, however, was starting to feel challenges in getting bands like us played on the radio.
Sure.
And we were getting signals from our A&R guy that, look, it's really tough out there right now because, you know, radio station program directors, MTV, they want to be hip, and you guys have kind of a history of being clumped in with the hair band kind of thing. And we're
Yep.
like, well, these people, these billions of people who like this kind of music didn't just fall off the face of the planet. They're still there. But, and there was this debate going back and forth with our record company of, but we still have to get to those people. We have to go through these people, the gatekeepers.
Yeah.
So program directors kind of changed their style on what they wanted their audience to do. And I was arguing, hey, the people still, the advertisers for your radio station, still like this kind of music, the good time American hard rock and roll,
Absolutely.
and but we were met with some resistance at the label. We tried to get a third single out of the label because we had the first single was Reach for the Sky.
Yep.
Second single was When I Look Into Your Eyes, and we had another slow tempo song that we thought was a good message song called Hold the Dream.
Yep.
Tried to have as a single, and they weren't going for it. They were just like, there's nothing we can do. So go in there and make your third album. So that'll take. And oh, at the end of that cycle, we went over to Europe to open up for a band called Status Quo, which they're as big as the Stones over there. This
Yep.
band is huge over there, legendary band. Treated us like gold. They were the coolest guys in the world, and we played Wembley, um, 2 nights, NEC 3 nights. The NEC's like 30,000 people, I think, something like that. Huge crowds. And that's when I heard Nirvana for the first time. I was out, with the other guys in a club, and they played Nirvana. I'm like, wow, that is really cool. That's a good song.
Yeah.
And so I didn't really know about Nirvana until then. And then
Sure.
we got back and we had a meeting with Epic, and then we walked in and Pearl Jam was on our label, and we could tell they were the big priority there, as they should be. A great band.
Yeah.
But looking back, I can see that the label, they were like this with their view,
Yeah.
and they didn't take the blinders off. They could have probably gotten some more mileage out of us had they put some effort and some money into promoting, and but they didn't want to do that. They were just, like, this is the new thing. It's bands like Pearl Jam and Nirvana, and that's what we're going to focus on. And they're running a business. You got to
Sure.
understand that's what they're doing.
Sure. So you're getting ready for the 3 album, and you are still on Epic, and holy shit, in 1995 you have a hit single. I mean, that was not happening for any band except you guys. I mean, that had to be maybe a surprise, and feel pretty good about the prospects for Firehouse.
It was a surprise because they didn't put any money into promoting it. They sent the song out to um, radio stations that they thought might play it, and that cost them the stamp of mailing it to them, and that was it. But because of our history, and this is my theory, okay, so I
Yeah.
don't know this to be a fact, but because of our history and being guys who would go in and do that 8 o'clock acoustic jam in the morning for their morning show, they remembered us as
Yeah.
nice guys. We did what more we went above and beyond what they asked,
Yeah.
and we were nice people.
Yeah.
And so they were like, well, let's play this song. It's not exactly what's going on right now, but let's play it. And I'll be darned if in some places it went number one.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Especially over in Asia, I think. I mean, that song was
I
massive.
mean, I mean in Milwaukee and in Green Bay, it was number one in their stations. So excuse me, but still, the record company didn't feel like
Yeah.
here in America they were going to be able to have an easy go at this. So we
Right.
did decide at that point, let's go tour overseas, because that's where people still want to hear us, and where radio stations will still play us, and where we can still go out and play. And we played all those countries in Southeast Asia, and just had a blast. It was
Sure.
wonderful.
Sure. So you put out Good Acoustics in 1996, still on Epic. Category 5, first album that you're not on Epic. You start going, I think Spitfire. '02 and 2000, Prime Time in 2003, and then you had Full Circle, which was a re-recorded greatest hits album. Um, when did is there a point in there where you're like, shit? I mean, the logistics and the financial benefits of putting out full albums is just not what it used to be, and a lot of bands kind of stopped putting out albums in the 2000s. And could you just kind of tell us your thought process, or what did the band talk about when that was going on?
We always want to keep making music. It's just kind of hard to get everybody together sometimes as life goes on, and as we all move. We're different states pretty much,
Yep.
and we're the financial end of it, of making a profit off of it, isn't as much of a thing for us as really having something really good to go with
Sure.
for the next album. And recording an album, that's a big heavy lift. If
Yep.
everybody doesn't live together,
Sure.
and if everybody doesn't have a studio in their house or whatever, you know.
Yep.
So, but we did prime time, and we put it out ourselves on our own label, and you know, we go out and sign them after our show,
Yep.
and it did well. I mean, they still trickle out, you know, so to
Sure.
speak.
Sure.
We did Full Circle, and and then you know, we were all just kind of thinking, what's the next song going to be? And we thought about that for years, and we just couldn't really come up with what the next song should be, and what we're going to sing about, what's going to be age appropriate, and stuff like that. Because I mean, all these things come into mind when you go, what are we going to sing about? You know, I don't know. You know, we're not going to sing about the old stuff,
Yep.
and so we kind of went through a little bit of that, and not really deep discussions of it, just all still, man, when the song comes, we'll know it and we'll be ready to record it. We can't wait to do it. We're going to do it. And we're just do one song at a time, because you do one song, you put it out, it buys you a little time to get ready for the next song.
Yep.
And then once you got 10, you can press them up on a CD. If anybody has a CD player anymore, they'll, you know, they maybe get one,
Right. Right.
or
Um,
vinyl.
but and shit, and that's getting to be the new thing is the big vinyl re-release, and
Mhm.
I'll actually going to ask you about that. But you were still you put out 5 solo albums, um, starting in I think around 2004, and your last one you put out "Divided We Fall" in 2020. I spent the last day listening to it. I got to tell you, I hear some Jim Morrison in your voice. I don't know if
Oh, thanks, man.
yeah, I mean,
I wish I had that magic in my voice, but I appreciate it, buddy.
and I love, "Divided We Fall," that message. Uh, when you have a major band like Firehouse, is that Firehouse can't decide what we're gonna do? We're looking for the right song. Is that where that solo project comes in because you're just constantly doing, or what's the goal for all of the solo stuff?
Well, I guess I don't really think about it with a goal in mind. I just
Sure.
think about, hey, I got this idea for a song. I practice every night.
Yeah,
Um, and it's a great way to uh to just get down here and relax and have fun and just play my guitar.
hmm,
And if something comes out, I record it. If it's an idea, great. If it's an idea where I go, oh, that could lead to something else, then I'll work on it some more.
sure.
And that's kind of how that went. And if it's a song that fits my voice, which is pretty rare because I don't have a great range, or I'm not, you know, I'm a good singer, but I don't have a great voice. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So I'll record it. Um, but uh, you know, it was like getting something to get Firehouse where it would work for the band. I didn't really come up with anything like that
sure,
in that time period.
sure,
So
sure.
wasn't really trying to just write my own stuff. I was just trying to write songs, and then they happened to fit my voice, which,
And
well, I
and
need to
it
pursue that.
as a fan, and I know this probably the sales and all that aren't what they used to be, but I love to hear like, oh shit, Bill Leverty is coming out with a new thing, Firehouse, and we're going to talk about the new single here in a second. I mean, so
I'm in
so
no hurry by the way. I want you to know I'm in no hurry. So let's
yeah,
keep talking.
no, okay, oh, no, that's perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you,
In
Keith.
so speaking of interest in the band in 2022, you guys end up on the Peacemaker TV show, which I mean, I don't know, in hair metal circles or hard rock circles, that was big news that all of these bands, and particularly Firehouse, you guys were in a really cool scene. How did you hear about that happening, and what was your reaction?
My reaction was, oh, that's wonderful and what a great performance he did
Yeah,
to that song. And my daughter actually told me about it.
yeah,
I didn't know about it.
yeah,
When a song from our old catalog is licensed by a film company, we're the last to know about it until it
sure,
comes out. We don't know
sure.
about it. Sony licensed that song, and just like the movie The Wrestler, we had a song called "Don't Walk Away" in The Wrestler,
Yep.
and I didn't hear about that until it was out, and then it's like, oh yeah, I saw the wrestler, and you guys have a great, have a song in there. I'm like, really? So I grabbed the wife, and we go out and see the wrestler, and I'm
Yeah.
like, wow, we had excellent placement
Yeah.
in
Yep.
that.
That was
So
a great movie.
yeah, it was, and you can go watch that scene again of "Don't Walk Away."
Right?
It was nice.
Yeah.
Marissa Tomei.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Um, okay. So we get to in October of 2023, Nate Peck, who had been on American Idol, starts filling in for some shows and for Firehouse. And a lot of us were surprised that nobody really knew. Can you just, and I don't know how much you can go into, but can you just kind of go into what was going on at that time? How did you like when did you find out that CJ wasn't doing well? And I'll stop there and I'll just kind of let you take
Yeah,
over.
sure. It was about 2.5 years before that. CJ was fine. Then he had some stomach pain, and we're playing at a gig in Milwaukee, and he walks over to me, kind of like when I'm starting the intro to Love of a Lifetime or something, and he's just like, "Man, I've never felt this bad," and I'm going, "You want to stop and take a break?" And he said, "No, I'll get through it," because he had the show must go on
Yeah,
vibe. Man, that guy was tough.
yeah,
Um, so we finished the show, and I'm like, man, maybe go get that looked at, and he said, yeah, it'll probably go away. We didn't know what it was. Excuse me. And then it didn't get any better. We had a little time off. So he went to the doctor, actually went to the emergency room, and they said, yeah, you've got an obstruction, a bowel obstruction. So we've got to remove that. So surgically removing it. Um, he was back 2 weeks later singing. You'd never know.
yeah,
That he had a scar here from having that taken out, and he had gotten some really bad news with it, lab results and stuff like that. And he's like, "Look, I want to keep this private. I
yeah,
don't want to talk about it. I don't, let's not mention this." But it was very bad news,
yeah,
and biopsy lab results were not good at all, and so that was his first surgery to have it removed. He had another major surgery that was a 12-hour procedure. Um, and he was back singing in 6 weeks. And you would never know it. He had a scar this long. I
yeah,
can't fit it in the screen. It was this long.
yeah,
And you would never know it with this guy. That's
yeah,
how tough he, he,
yeah,
he was. And then that was about 2 years that he was doing great. And then he started getting sick again. And so he went in for a third surgery. And that's about the time when Robbie Lochner said, yeah, I know you guys have a lot of shows on the books, and you might need a substitute. And you got to check this guy out. And I'd never heard of him. And I don't watch American Idol. I shouldn't. I should now because, but I checked out Nate's Instagram, and he's got all these songs that he sings with um, from the greatest singers of all time,
yeah,
in my opinion.
yeah,
And he just knocks them out of the park, and he's just singing live. He's got a camera here, and he's just singing into his microphone, and it's just awesome. And so I called him and I said, hey, I'm Bill from Firehouse. We got a couple of shows coming up. Would you be interested in filling in for CJ? CJ should be back around July.
yeah,
Uh, and he said, oh, I'd love to. I sent him the song list. I said, do you know any of our songs? He says, no, I've heard Love of a Lifetime before, but I
yeah,
don't know any of the songs. I'm like, well, I'll send you the songs, and
yeah,
we'll be talking on the phone, and you can get ready by kind of practicing or whatnot. We didn't have any rehearsals with the guy. We had a long sound check that day of the New England Rock Fest, um,
yeah,
which was his first gig, and he just crushed it. I mean, he was really nervous,
yeah,
but he just nailed it. And I sent some video over to CJ, and CJ, I was talking to him on the phone. He's like, "Man, that guy's good." He goes, "Bill, that's your guy." And I was like, "Wow." Um, So the plan was for CJ to come back in July. CJ was feeling rough. He had lost a lot of weight. He was really weak. And we're like, well, look, man, when you're ready, come on out. We'll have Nate there too. And then you can get out, sing the first song or two, say, hey, introduce Nate, and you guys sing a couple songs together. You go take a break, come back out, do an encore or whatever, and whatever you feel,
Yeah.
we'll do. But unfortunately, CJ had a sudden cardiac arrest. And I talked to him the day before. He said, things are looking good, man. I'm gaining weight.
Yeah.
Things are looking up, is what he said. Great. And the next day it passed.
They didn't know. I mean, were they still thinking, hey, he might get through this, or
Yeah, we
oh
were
no?
all under this, and he was too. He
Yeah,
had just gained some weight, which was a big thing for him because he had lost quite a bit.
sure.
And yeah, so it was the plan was he was coming back in July,
Yeah,
last July. So, I remember I got the phone call. We were in Texas and we were connecting, and I said, everybody, come on over here because I just gotten the phone call, and I told everybody that CJ passed away last night, and we were just like sitting in that airport going, we were not at all expecting that, ready for
sure.
that. It was brutal. It really was.
Was there? Did you talk to his? I'm assuming you did talk to his family. What were the conversations about? Okay, okay, I mean the voice of Firehouse, and I just want to say this: I saw you guys so many times over the years. That dude never missed notes. That I mean, when you think of the great singers of that era, I think you have to mention his name because not only on rec, but I'm getting off track. I just wanted to say that the guy was amazing.
I
Uh,
agree with you. He was a phenomenal singer. And the thing about him is that he never wanted us to cancel a show, even after he got sick.
right.
Um, he didn't want us to cancel a show, especially once we got Nate. Once we got Nate, he's like, okay, that guy can can sound like Firehouse.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
that's your guy. And I've talked to all his family, and it's heartbreaking. And so yeah, it's tough.
So they I mean, it's obviously everyone was supportive of you continuing on as Firehouse, getting Nate to come in.
Yeah, because he was, and he
Yep.
let them all know,
Yep.
and that Nate's, yeah, Nate's
Right.
great.
I'm assuming did CJ and Nate ever get to chat about?
Oh yeah, all the time. They talked
Okay.
almost daily.
Okay.
CJ
Wow.
gave him a lot of advice, and you know, like one of the things that he would tell Nate is that you're running a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. Don't come out and blow your voice out in the first song because
Right.
control yourself, hold it back a little bit, and take care of yourself.
Yep.
You know, and Nate's followed his advice and real well.
Yeah. So you just released Mighty Fine Lady with Nate on vocals, and I'm just gonna say Nate almost sounds eerily, and I mean this as a compliment, eerily close to what CJ would do. I mean, that song came out, and I'm like, holy shit, are we back in 1991? So tell me and I think the response on like X and everything has been overwhelmingly positive. So when did you decide, okay, we're gonna start writing new stuff, and how did that come about, Mighty Fine Lady?
Well, Nate started it. I mean, he was like, "Send me a riff." And I was like, "Well, okay." So I'm down here, and I dug up a riff, or I came up with a riff that would be, I think, something cool that we could maybe do live and maybe turn into a song. And I sent it to him, and he sang on his little iPhone rig, and sent it back to me in a voice memo with the verse. What is the verse now? And I was like, man, that is so good
Yeah,
and sounds so cool. Um, Let me write some music that would be more fitting for a verse because what you got is a melody and the lyrics are perfect. So I sent him back something that was more like a verse because he sang over the intro riff, and that intro riff on that song. That's the only time you hear that riff, which is kind of what started the song. That's
Yeah.
the only time you hear it in that song is just right in the intro. So I sent him back that verse, and he sang on that, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I like that a lot better." And I said, "Okay, now what you're singing about here is the hot chick, you know."
Yeah.
And so we got to come up with something kind of a little classy to make it the hook or what the topic is about. And we bounced a bunch of stuff back and forth, and we came up with "Mighty Fine Lady,"
Yeah.
and got a chorus together. And so then after the chorus, you kind of have a song, but you got to get little pieces to get from the verse to the chorus, and little pieces to get from the chorus back to the second verse, and then a solo, and then a little bridge maybe, which we wrote, and he just came up with all these creative ideas and all these great melodies. So then I was like, well, the song's written, and Michael lives an hour away, so he's coming over here playing drums as it's being done. He's putting in his cool stuff, that intro
Yeah.
and everything. And so then we're like, well, Nate, let's fly you here to Virginia to record it. And I had him scheduled. He was going to fly in on a Friday night. We were going to record Saturday. He was going to fly out Sunday. And Friday night we went to dinner and we're just hanging out. And I'm like, all right, well, let's go back. You want to just sing it through to get the rough idea together. And he sang it through, and it was like perfect. So I'm like, let's not mess with that.
Right.
The next day we went through with kind of a fine tooth comb, and excuse me, couldn't really find anything to nitpick about. We tried some other options on stuff and kind of fiddled it with a little bit, but it was done that first night, that first take he did.
Right.
And the guy's just got all these really cool ideas and everything, and the natural way that he sings without even trying just has that bright tone that CJ was kind of known for.
Yeah.
And Nate's got it. It's, to me, it's magic, and we're super fortunate to work with him.
Yeah. Oh, it's if you haven't, go to the Firehouse website and get that song because I'm not just saying that because you're here, because I would just say, okay, yeah. It's phenomenal. And it leads to the next question. There is there more coming? Is there, you got this young guy who's excited about writing new music. That's got to be kind of reinvigorating for you.
It is, and we would love to, and we're going to. We'll figure out what the next one is, and we'll crank it out.
Yep.
We won't let it out until it's done,
Yep.
and might take a little bit, but
Sure.
in the meantime, that's where you can get Mighty Fine Lady is at firehousemusic.com. We don't have it on any of the streaming stuff as of right now, but
Yep.
our conversation is, but it'll eventually be up there. But right now, if you support the band directly, there aren't a bunch of middlemen in there, and it's way better for us. So
I
thanks for the support.
I fully support that because bands aren't making anything, on Spotify or so I'm like, it's a buck. I mean, and that's truthfully like the idea of giving away your music to me has just never made any sense. So I fully, it's a buck on Firehouse Music for a great song that is going to bring you back to the great times of Firehouse. So anyway,
Well, thank you. It was a lot of work,
yeah,
but it was labor of love in putting it together.
yeah,
A lot of hours mixing it. I think I spent more time mixing it than I did recording everybody else put together,
right,
just because I'm not a mix engineer, but I want it to compete with our old stuff. I wanted to compete
right,
with our third record too, which was mixed by Chris Lord Alge, the greatest mix engineer out there, one of the greatest. And
yep,
and you want it to compete with the stuff that's out there now, and to sound not too far removed, but we also want it to sound like our classic kind of vibe. So there was a
yeah,
lot of experimentation and a lot of work to get it to sound the way it sounds, and we're real happy with the way it turned out.
sure. How many shows a year is Firehouse playing now? About
We're doing about 50.
okay,
Right now, I think on the books, and we're almost halfway through the year. We've already We've got 36, I think, left for the year that are up there confirmed, but there'll be another 10 or so that'll probably confirm. So I think we'll break the 50 mark this year if we're lucky.
And how much longer does Bill Leverty want to rock?
Until I can't do it anymore, man. I couldn't imagine myself retiring.
Right.
And I'm not, my legs still work. So I can walk around up there. I can't run around like I used to, but I can
Yep.
still walk. And
Yep.
my fingers still work, thankfully. So I can still do what I got to do there. And I mean, as soon as I start really embarrassing myself and embarrassing the other guys by not being able to do it, I'll have to say, hey, it's time. But I think I got another 20 years in me. The way I feel right now, I feel great.
Hey, the Stones are out there doing it and they're 80. So,
Yeah, and I'm only 40. So,
yeah. Right. I gotcha. I
well, I
got
mean, 40, I mean, I turned 40, what was it in 2002?
Right. Right. Um, okay, so the new thing is people are repackaging, re-releasing on vinyl. Number one, would there by chance be anything left over from the past of Firehouse? And is there any talks of doing that, repackaging stuff? Maybe 35th year anniversary of the, shoot, the 35th year anniversary of Hold Your Fire would be 27. Anyway, is there any talks about doing that?
Well, we'd love to. Sony owns those.
Yep.
They own the administrative rights to being able to reproduce that stuff. So if they want to do it, like they did re-release the vinyl through a third party, and so
Sure.
of the first album, so you can get that first album on vinyl.
Yep.
And they did a really great job. It looks really cool and everything. But I don't know if Hold Your Fire they'll do something like that. For us, we didn't really over record
Yeah.
and go in and lay down basic tracks for 15 and then just pick the best 10 and then have these five left over. We didn't really have any of that. There's
Right.
a few that we've got that we wrote that were good, but they weren't good enough to release back then. So why would you want to release them now if they weren't good enough back then?
Sure.
And I go back and I ask myself the same question. Hey, what about releasing that one? And I'm going, yeah, it's not really quite where I am now anyway,
Sure.
and it wasn't where I was then. So
Sure.
just time to move forward, keep looking forward, and keep coming up with something new.
Sure. Bill, I just want your dedication to your fans is an example for every band out there. And you are just one of the good guys of rock and roll. I mean that. It has been a pleasure listening to you reminisce about the past and talk about the future.
Thanks, Anthony. Thanks for all the people who listen to Hair Metal Guru, and I appreciate your time. Letting me be here.
Absolutely. Hey, and should you guys, have anything to promote in the future, I'm all about promoting it. You're always welcome back on. And thank you and good luck with the new single and good luck with the future.
Thanks, brother.